all that Airbnb stuff, I was against that from the beginning because I knew before you know it, like they were going to make rules to kind of restrict this, that, which they're doing.
What made you choose real estate?
It worked. I ended up investing in Michigan, right? I heard everybody say, yo, that's crazy. That don't even make sense. Why would you go way out there? You can't see these places and everything. I was up one night going across, like looking at a map of places. I just found that place. So I did all my research on it and everything. And I ended up buying my first property over there off of a phone video. You have people that say, I don't want to be a landlord. So you want to be a renter all your time? Like, gotta make a better choice there. You sound crazy by saying, yo, I lived here for 30 years and paying rent. You could have bought that house. And you probably had the money at one point to buy it.
What would you say is the most important thing in life? Today's guest grew up in the 80s, watching the crack and AIDS epidemics unfold from his front row seat in his grandmother's basement in the projects, to navigating fatherhood at 18, hustling, to developing a 7-year career in real estate and construction. Our guest, P.A.P.E.S, is here to share his story of resilience, transformation, and hard-earned success. Please welcome P.A.P.E.S. Peace and power, my brother.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming through.
Not a problem.
A lot of people want to know,
Go ahead.
how do they get started in real estate?
Discipline first. You have to discipline, sacrifice. Start with that. And then the money part comes in after that. But the main things are discipline, sacrifice first. Like you have to discipline yourself by saying, okay, I'm not going to go shopping today. I'm not going to do this today and I'm not going to do that today because you got to save all of that money. Now, sacrifice, sometimes you're going to lose relationships. Like people you got to stay away from because you on one path to do something and they looking like, oh, yo, let's do this, let's do that. And you set to do what you got to do. So those are the two main things that people kind of overlook a lot of the times. They just look at the money part, but it's those two things that are like the top of the list for me.
Wow. I think that that's amazing that that's how you answered that question. Because like you said, I don't want to sound redundant. I think a lot of people do overlook the mindset part first.
Yeah.
And they think that it's all about the money.
Nah, that's like, that comes a little later.
Interesting. Why do you think people struggle with discipline and sacrifice? Like, what is it in you that allowed you the ability to have that discipline and sacrifice? Because some people, they occur to themselves like they either have it or don't.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's like you just gotta want it. You gotta want what's at the end of that road. You can't sit here and say, all right, I'll get it one way or another. You gotta have a straight path to it. And with that straight path that you have to it, those things that I mentioned gotta, be alongside of you in that path. Because some people just can't stop going out to eat, partying and doing this or doing that. Like when I first did it, I sacrificed getting haircuts and stuff like that. Like just, it may not have been much, but that $20, $30 every week adds up in a month and it allows you to do something else with it. But that was just save. I stayed in the apartment. I didn't leave much. I just stayed in there. I didn't want to go nowhere because I had that plan like, yo, I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to buy this. And not everybody is willing to do that. And when I say you got to get rid of some people, because you might have that person next to you and say, yo, let's just go. Don't worry about that. Let's just go. I got you. Even if you have me, you're taking me off the mindset of, yo, I got to buy this house because we out doing something else. And I'm not even focused on what I'm supposed to be focused on.
Yeah. Powerful. What would you say? I run into a lot of people that are either single parents, both mothers and fathers. And they say, they just don't have enough money to stretch to even think about saving. So let's say they have the mindset, but now the next thing is the money.
They have like different programs for people like that, but you can't tell me you don't have the money to stretch when your 6-year-old kid has an iPhone. You can't tell me and you all got iPhones and Christmas come, y'all got all of these gifts and Easter getting dressed. You can't tell me you don't have the money when you're doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you have to sacrifice those things to, put your family in a better position.
Wow.
So, you got to kind of figure out what's more important. And for me, it was, getting this property.
Yeah.
I didn't care about Christmas going to be every year. This going to be, all those holidays are going to happen all the time. You got that one shot to get that property.
It sounds also too like you have thick skin. Like you were willing to also be judged for sacrificing, be judged for maybe cutting some people off or not providing during a certain like Christmas or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care because that I knew what the bigger picture was. I knew that whatever I was doing to get that property, whatever, it was going to make the next year better and the year after that and the year after that better. Like even to this day, if it comes to a point where I have to sacrifice one of those things, I'm going to go with, getting that property or, investing.
Yeah. What's the bigger picture for you? Or what was, or it still is?
Just change. Just a change. Just able to start creating that like generational wealth. Like, I have sons and just showing them something different. You know what I mean? Like I bought my first house in 2018. Then my son bought his 6 months later, his first house at 22.
He's 22 years old.
He was 22 at the time. And now he's also investing in Michigan with me.
Yeah.
With his own money.
Wow, that's great. That's great. What I appreciate about you also is that not only did you lead with talk, wisdom, knowledge, but you also led with action. So he was able to see like my dad's not just talking about it.
Exactly.
He's walking that walk. He's really doing it.
Yeah. So, and he's like coming right behind it and he's understanding like, what he has to do to become more successful.
Yeah, yeah.
And he didn't ask me for one dime in either one of his purchases.
Wow, wow. Now you had very humble beginnings, coming from the projects, and we're going to talk about that. But one question that I have for you is, how do you know what type of real estate investment to do, especially like now, right? Where there's Airbnb, there's people talking about flip. Some people talking about just doing getting paid, just doing the paperwork. Yeah. There's so many options out there. How do you judge what is the best real estate investment based on your experience?
For me, it's just buying investment property, mainly multifamily, buying that and, renting it out, or flip, buying one and fixing it, selling it for more. All that Airbnb stuff, I was against that from the beginning because I knew before it, like they were going to make rules to kind of restrict this, that, which they're doing. And most people, it was like a lot of people saying they own stuff, but it was like host. They were all like the host of it, but they didn't own nothing. So you figure you probably don't hear much about Airbnb now as much as you did maybe 4 years ago. Like everybody said they own the property, this, that, but I didn't even try to get into that.
Yeah.
Flipping and investing in multifamilies is, for me, that's been working. And traditionally, that's what's been working for most real estate investors. Like an Airbnb is like something new, fairly new.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a new thing.
Yeah. So it sounds like your outlook is sticking to things that are battle tested.
Yeah, for sure.
Tried and true. And
then add your own little twist to it.
Yeah.
That's really it.
I have two questions for you. We were speaking offline about certain things, and it seems like you have this foresight about you that I acknowledge just from knowing you. And how did you develop that? Like even like the Airbnb comment, right? Of sort of knowing like your regulations are eventually going to come. So this is not something that I want to invest in.
Right.
How do you develop that foresight?
So for me, I'm an overthinker. Like I overthink everything. So I'll sit and break everything down to myself. I don't even like share it with people. I just break it down and say, all right, this may work for this amount of time or this won't work. You know what I mean? So I just do it like that. So everything that I look at, I just play it over and over and over, overthinking it and just kind of pick it apart. And then what's left from everything I picked apart, that's what I go with. So if I tell somebody, hey, I believe this and that, I'm not just throwing it out there like, yo, I believe this is going to happen. Like, I thought about it like just forever before I even present it. Like, yo, this is what's going to happen. So it's just overthinking. That's all.
Yeah. Now, what makes you different than someone? Because a lot of people overthink, right? But then they don't pull the trigger. So you overthink and then eventually take action.
Yeah.
So what makes you different as an overthinker that you also...
Because I believe in me. I believe whatever I think, that's what I believe it. Like, I believe what I'm doing is right. It's just, I don't really listen to a lot of the noise. I just listen to me.
Wow.
Because it's not, it's been working all this long. Listening to me has been working this far. So why listen to the noise that people, and again, that goes back to me not following others. Like, I'm making my own path, and that path's been working over and over again. So that's what works.
Has there been a time where maybe you ignored the noise, or maybe someone who maybe told you like, nah, go this way, and then you went your way and were wrong?
No.
Wow.
And humbly, like, nah, it's just, it's so funny. Like, I never really had people to give me what I give them. Like, I never had that person to say, yo, do this, do that, do that. It was just kind of me just, thinking of on my own. Like, nobody ever gave me, with the exception of my sister, of course. But that's kind of a given. But anything outside of that, nobody never came to me and say, hey, do this way, and I guarantee you it'll work. This, that. Like, people never really shared anything like that with me. Like, I seemed like always the person to share the information with people. So I have not one person that ever gave me anything that added to my success, which is bad to say, but I don't really know anybody who ever helped me.
So you lean on, number one, so you analyze something, right? So you have confidence, but you definitely thought about it, formulated a plan. So it's not like empty confidence, just belief in yourself, like you go through the process. Yeah. For somebody who struggles with self-doubt, I'm actually one who struggles with self-doubt. I pull the trigger on things, but what a lot of people don't know is that behind the scenes, I'm fighting. How do you overcome self-doubt?
I don't know. It's just been, so I'll give you this. So I ended up investing in Michigan, right? So I heard everybody say, yo, that's crazy. That don't even make sense. Why would you go way out there? You can't see these places and everything. I was up one night going across, like looking at a map of places. I just found that place. So I did all my research on it and everything. This, that. And I ended up buying my first property over there off of a phone video. Like a phone video, like a FaceTime. I didn't see it or anything. FaceTime video did it like that. Oh, I wouldn't go out there. It's crazy, this, that. And it worked because I did the research. I didn't listen to that noise I'm talking. I didn't listen to anything. And now it's 2 years later and I'm there. My son's there. Another one of my people's out there. And then there's more to come. And this is just me not listening to anybody. But you had that group of people that say, oh, the water, this, that. And it's like, yo, you've never been there. You didn't even do the research. Like, the water thing was so long ago. They fixed everything there. But people didn't know. That's just the first thing that they said. But if I would have listened to all of that, I wouldn't have been out there, 4 or 5 properties later.
Yeah. What does... You mentioning research, what does that even look like for you? Like, walk me through that process of what research means.
Man, I do like I'll stay up like all night just studying stuff, just, going over it, like what's here, what's, if it's so far as like real estate and that, like, what's this close to, like, what's their industry, what's everything around it, like what the properties are going for, what the rent is, like all of those things. And then, go from there. That's my research. But that research can take weeks at a time. I mean, it could take a day, it could take weeks, it could take a month, but I do it first. So everything I do is by design. It's not like I'm just doing something. I'm waking up one day and say, I'm gonna just do this. Nah, it's all by design. Like, it's It's well calculated.
So I'm still holding on to the question, but I want to ask this question based on what you said. So now what comes to mind is, okay, you have the time to do the research.
Hmm.
What about for a single parent who's working 2 jobs, who is barely sleeping and then has to do homework with her child or his child, and their excuse is, I don't have the time.
We go back to my first point, that sacrifice of time now. You have to sacrifice that. If you got to stay up all night long to make a better way, you have to stay up all night long. I won't sleep if I don't have to. If I have to go a night without sleeping to figure out what to do for something, I'll just be up. It'll just stay up.
You know, this is so great to hear because again, right, we spoke off air. So I know about some of the toys you've owned and own, and you know you're doing pretty well for yourself. But it's so great to hear that it's not like you have this magical power.
Oh, no.
Like you're talking to a man who has sacrificed,
Yeah.
who has taken courageous risks, right? Would you call them risks?
Well, I wouldn't call it a risk because I did the research. So I can't really call it a risk because I checked all of the boxes before I did it. Like I made sure, like I said, it's by design. It's not like, oh, I'm just jumping out.
Yeah.
Like, so I really didn't take a risk because I kind of, did everything that I needed to do to see what it was.
So this is great to just see like behind the scenes, like, oh, okay, yeah, my man, he's willing to stay up all night if he has to. You know, someone might think that you're just special or you just have like,
I'd rather stay up all night.
You were lucky.
I'd rather stay up all night tonight to sleep good every other night. Like, stay up one night, stay up for a week, but you'll be good for the rest of your life. That's a great trade-off to me.
Yeah. So the other question that I was holding on to, as someone who owns property and multifamilies and everything, how do you deal with tenants that don't pay their rent? That's actually a question for my audience too.
I only had that once.
Interesting, because that's what people say. Like, nah, you got to deal with the headache of tenants, and you only dealt with and you have 12 properties. You've had
over the course of time, but right now 7.
Wow, and so. Yeah, and you only dealt with that once.
Only dealt with it once.
And that seems to be like one of the boogie monsters that people that people has actually told me or I've heard other people say to other people to get them away from investing into real estate.
But see, even with that, anybody that I assisted on buying property, nobody ever had a problem. Like, nobody ever had a problem. Yeah. And this is like 4 or 5 people. And they all bought multi-families, and nobody ever had a problem.
Yeah.
So but again, that's, it's a lot different renting places now. Like you got to do credit check and this and that. So it's a little different than, before. So you kind of cover as a landlord today. You're covered somewhat. You're not fully covered, but you're covered, and you kind of say, all right, I want this person or that person,
Yeah. Another thing I've heard, well, let me ask you before I ask this question. Do you own any Section 8 properties?
Yeah.
So it's another like boogie monster that people say don't invest into Section 8 stuff is that, oh, they'll destroy your property. They don't take care of it.
I don't believe that either because it never happened to me, but I've seen, people who pay their rent, who just stop paying their rent, they'll destroy a house too. So a person on Section 8, that doesn't make the person any different because they're on Section 8. Maybe they're just going through a time. Or some people are just, using that as a stepping stone. Maybe I'm on Section 8 just to save up, money to buy a house. That doesn't make the person a bad person, Like I don't believe that.
How much, and you've done it yourself, you've empowered your son to do it, and you've also assisted 5 other people to do it. How much does somebody need to start?
So it kind of varies. When I first started, like in 2018, you only needed about maybe 10 to 15 grand. Today, that's double. You need about 30.
To start.
But now when I say the 30, you got to have everything else in order. Like you can't have, too much credit card debt. You can't have a huge car note. Your credit got to be, at a decent number and all of that. So about 30, and that'll get you in the game. But you need a little more than that, but it'll get you in at 30 because houses now are like 600 and 3.5 of that, that's over 20 grand.
Yeah, bro. Like I see, I'm from Paterson. You're from Paterson as well. And when I hear certain rents that people are paying,
Yeah, rents are more than mortgages now.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then like in the fourth,
Yeah,
in the fourth, just for people who don't know, it tends to be more of a crime area. I don't know if it's still like that now.
I think it's changing.
It's changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's up with that? Why are rents increasing?
Cost of living everything is going up. We deal with, is it 7% a year of inflation? You do that, so it's gonna keep going up. The cost to build materials are more now. Like
so it's just a byproduct of everything going
so
up.
Everything is up. So if you do that, if you put more in, you're gonna expect more to come out. And if one person do it, then the second person, then so if you have a building and you're renting out a 2-bedroom place for $2,500, and my building is right next to yours, what you think I'm gonna do?
Right.
I'm not gonna rent mine out for $1,000. I'm just gonna follow your lead and say, all right, I might go 26. If they paying you 25, they give me 26. And then the next guy gonna say, oh, wait, they doing 26. I give them 27. It'll just keep going up like that. It's not gonna stop.
Yeah.
People think oh, I'm gonna just buy when the market goes down. It's never gonna stop. It's just gonna keep going up.
Is it ever too late to buy a house?
That's funny because it's it depends on your situation. Because if let's say I'm 60 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a 60-year-old person, how can I take on a 30-year mortgage? How do I pay that? Am I well off, or am I gonna work until I'm 90? It gets tricky. I wouldn't buy a single family home at 60 because what are you going to do to pay it? And you pay that on your own. Now, if you're older and you buy a multifamily and you're going to leave it to a family member or something, that's cool, but not for a single family.
Yeah.
So it varies. If it's a multifamily, go for it. But if it's a single family that you just plan on live the rest of your days in, it's
So I'm glad you brought that up as far as the single versus the multi.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember my wife and I at one time, we were, debate is a strong word. It wasn't a debate. Thinking about which one to invest in first as a couple, because I had some on my own already, some investment property on my own, but as a couple now, do you have any suggestions whether a person, a couple, or what have you, whether they should buy a 1-family versus a 2-family or building? Do you have any suggestions?
My suggestion is always buy multi first. Buy multi, live in it for a year, and then take the rent from that and pay for your single. And kind of, break it down. You can even go further and say, all right, you could use the 3.5 yourself, buy your multi, and then let her use the 3.5 to buy the single. So, you're not really coming out, 20% on the new house.
Yeah.
So just do it like that.
Is there an average credit score that someone needs to get into buying their first property?
That's a realtor's question. It varies.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
What was your credit score when
I first got in, it was probably 6. But that was 2018, and houses. I bought my first house. I paid $230 for it. But that was when the interest rate was 4 or 5. It's 4.5 back then. So it was different. But now, you're asking for more money. You're asking for $500,000. So I'm pretty sure your score has to be a little different than, the back then.
Yeah.
So that would probably be a realtor.
Okay. All right. Now I appreciate your honesty, and what would you say has been your biggest challenge, in real estate?
Just finding properties. Just finding them. I like to buy off market. So that's a challenge.
What does that mean, off market?
That means a property that's not listed. Say if you say, yo, I want to sell my house, and you didn't list it yet. I want to deal with you direct.
Why is that? Versus
I don't have to fight with nobody. I don't have to fight with people overbidding, or I don't have to worry about 5 people interested in it. We just dealing one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it's just easier like that.
Wow.
You get a better deal.
Hey,
I mean,
how did you learn that? Just from
my sister,
your sister is a
realtor / broker.
Got you.
So she's,
So it's good to also have a network.
yeah, for sure.
When I owned property, if you were to ask me what was one of my biggest challenges, it was finding the right people to help me keep the properties up in terms of fixing, because I'm not a handy person.
Right.
It's actually a joke. Like I could barely, hang a picture up. And so I had to hire someone for everything. Definitely, we're talking about the early 2000s, right? So definitely now I've definitely used YouTube, a little bit more, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But the truth is I'm not a handy person. And I'm going to use the word waste. I wasted a lot of money just finding someone, and even almost got into physical altercations. I'm talking about, it was crazy. So you also own a construction company.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that why you pivoted that way? Or did you have some of those same challenges? Yeah. And if you didn't, how did you?
So in the beginning, it was like, I kind of walked in and didn't know, same with you, I didn't know nothing. Like when I first got on, I didn't know anything. So, it was like trial and error. You find this person, they do this, do that. They don't do it the right way. And luckily, I found a group of people to work with that does everything, and they do it the right way. And I've been with them for 4 years, and we work.
Yeah.
So it
took some trial and error for you?
Yeah, for sure.
So part of your success is also like just experiencing and.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as a lot of other people like startups.
So you've heard similar stories like mine,
right?
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was just like it could have been done faster or, a little better. But I never had a problem where it was just done completely wrong. It was just a time thing for me.
Yeah.
Like for me it's about time too. You kind of racing against the clock. Because if you like your first property, you buy it, your mortgage is doing like 45 days. But if you don't have anybody in there paying the rent, you got to pay out of your pocket. And if it's just sitting for months, you got to keep paying out your pocket versus if it gets fixed quick, you can get people in there quick and you don't have to go in your pocket.
How do you know when to hold on to a property and rent it versus flipping a property? Because you've done both.
It's tricky because I go for me, like I don't really like holding anything in Jersey no more, and I like to take the money from here and take it out of state, because I feel like out of state I can go and buy houses cash. All the houses out there are owned straight out, and I can make the same money there like out of state versus here. But here I'll be in debt. But there, I won't be. So I just don't like the debt part of, holding properties. The properties that I'm holding now, like I bought them before and the rates were, lower. Like it's hard to hold a property with the rates today. For me, not for everybody, but, for me, it's just, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
You want to, it's probably hard to make a profit today, because if your mortgage is $5,000 and you're getting 27 and 27, what are you making, $400 a month?
Right.
But you're $500,000 in debt. Don't really make sense for me.
Yeah.
But,
out of all the things you could have invested in,
mm-hmm.
right? Now there's crypto, right? There's obviously real estate, right? You could have started a business maybe, there's so many things that you could have done, right? Especially like now when you look up, there's always a guru saying this is the way. What made you choose real estate?
It worked. That was other than other stuff, but that was the first thing that I invested into, and it worked.
So you've done other stuff? Got you.
So it worked. So that worked. It was like, all right, this worked. So It just kind of, it hasn't failed me yet. The other stuff that you name is a little too volatile for me.
What do
Like
you mean?
crypto go up and down and stock go up and down. Like I don't know. Like the real estate thing is it's steady. Like your rent is your rent every month for those 12 months. It's like a constant. It's not, it's not up and down.
Yeah.
People, they rent is their rent. I never seen rent go down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never seen it go down.
What was the spark for you that made you even like want to do something, want to get into real estate, versus how your life was, right? To now. What was that spark? What made you shift?
Just wanted like change. Just wanted to have something. Like just wanted to just do something different. You find yourself saying, okay, what are you gonna do in the next couple? Like the people ask that question, like, yo, what is your 5-year plan? And a lot of us sat and didn't really have an answer. Like I know I didn't really have an answer for it. So then it was like, all right, let me try this. Let me get into property. And it just worked. So that was the first one working was like the spark for everything else. That's what it was for me.
Yeah, yeah. As I stated earlier, you have humble beginnings.
Mhm.
You spent a lot of time at your grandmother's house in the projects
Sure.
and experiencing and seeing a lot.
Mhm.
How did that mold and shape your mindset to
Uh,
who you are today?
Because when I was there, like when I would be there, like my grandmother lived in a basement apartment. So when you live in a basement apartment, you're kind of like ground level. You kind of hear everything, and you can see some things too. So you start seeing two different, not even two. You're seeing like many different personalities. You're seeing people that were making money and having nice things. You've seen people that was on drugs, not having nice things. And then you also saw those group of people that had nice things at one point, and you start seeing the shit, they go down, go down. I saw like two different things. I saw a person maybe a month, like let's say January. You start January, they had nothing. And that other person had everything. I saw the person go up, that person go down. You start saying, hey, wait, why are they hanging together? Like, wait, they shouldn't be together. They shouldn't hang. Because he's supposed to be there and they're lower level. So you start seeing them doing that and you say, wait, they hanging together. What's going on? Now you see this person, you see that person driving that person's car and stuff like that. You're like, wait, why is he driving his car? Like something's wrong. But what I was seeing was a shift. I started seeing this person sell to this person. So that person going down and this person going up. So now he ended up where that person was. Like I just saw that a lot. So I knew I didn't want to be the person down there. I knew I wanted to be, on a steady path. Like it was that, but that happened in the 80s a lot. You saw that.
Yeah.
Like I think I grew up in like it was like two different things that happened at the same time. It was like crack came, AIDS came. It was like, what the hell? Like seeing both of those things were like insane.
Wow.
So you saw people healthy one day and a year later they're like skeleton. You saw people that didn't have one day, now they have. You saw people that had that, like the 80s is just a weird time.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful because it taught me a lot.
Oh.
Like I learned a lot from just seeing that, and it kind of made me realize what side of the fence I wanted to be on.
If you can break down what that lesson is or lessons, what's the most important thing you learned, or what did it teach you? What did that experience, that observation teach you?
It told me who I wanted to be, who I didn't want to be. That was the main thing. Like I knew I wanted something, and I knew like that wasn't the way to live. I'm like, no, that can't be. You can't just stay in this box. Like that's like a box. You like really being in a box. You can't stay there.
But how did you even know that something existed outside the box? Because that's the thing, right? Where a lot of people, they say stuck in their thinking
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know any better. Like even me, I purposely would take my children into nice neighborhoods because I wanted them to see like there was more, there was better. I want you to think outside the box. And it was like this thing where I had to, like, I don't want to say falsely stimulate in them, but just expose them. It's no falsely stimulate nothing. Just expose them to more. And I remember, right, this I always talk about, I even spoke about it in my book, where there was this professor, her name was Parsha Hobson.
Mm-hmm.
She's from the city, she's from Paterson. And I asked her one day, I was like, yo, what happened? You know, she's older, she's a professor, so I wanted to know what was her perspective. And make a long story short, she mentioned the crack epidemic, right? And she said, like, yo, Paterson used to have professionals, like doctors and lawyers. But she was like, once the crack came, those people had to move out because they were getting robbed, assaulted.
Or they succumbed to what was going on.
That was the other she didn't mention that part.
That's what I was saying, like the up and the down, like the people.
Some of them
shifting.
succumbed. Great point.
So I saw that.
Wow.
So it was a little weird. So the difference that I saw was me going home. Like when I went home, like I had my own room, I was cooling. But when I go to my grandma's house, like it was seven of them there in a 2-bedroom. So to go to sleep, you had to just find your spot. So I had both sides I was able to see, but I would cry to go there every weekend. Weird. Like I would cry to go there. Like if I couldn't go there, I would be hurt.
Right.
But like I had to get there.
Yeah. You know, I want to talk about that. One thing that the Professor Hobson would say is that when everybody moved out, like not everybody, when the professionals moved out or probably succumbed to the situation, the people didn't have nothing to aspire to, to look up to. So now these people basically want to be what's in their environment. It's just all that they see. So you become what you see, essentially.
Right.
But you naturally have this observation process that you developed at a very young age to be able to compare, and then you were exposed to a different life. Yeah. So you learned quick, like, nah, I don't want to be that.
For sure.
Interesting. Where did that desire for more? What's in your being that developed that?
More? Probably my mom's. Like my mom's wanted more. So she, moved us into the better neighborhoods and stuff like that.
She was originally from the projects herself?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So
you saw that transition?
From my mom? Yeah.
From living, so I know I
was 3 years old. So when we left, I was 3. So from there, she never looked back. So, she was, it was, I think like, it was weird because like maybe a couple months ago, I was talking to her and she was like, I broke my lease to move out of there. I mean, it's like, that was like a thing. Like she wanted to leave that bad. So to move, on the east side of town. So we did that and never looked back.
Yeah.
But again, I would still, go there.
Right.
Just to have both.
What attracted you to it? So now you have this great opportunity, right? You move out, which a lot of people don't get that opportunity. Yeah. But you're attracted to it.
Yeah.
And you go back
every weekend.
Right. And so what's that about? Or what was that about?
I was learning so much. It's weird. Like I learned so much there. Like the stuff that I use today, I learned there. Like just survival and not everybody. See, I don't want to make this seem like everybody, but that was a lesson of true sacrifice because they just didn't have. So that goes back to my sacrifice. Like when I go to my grandmother's house, they didn't have a refrigerator full of everything. They probably had a little bit, but I had to know how, I ain't gonna eat this today. I'm not gonna do this today. When I go home, it's everything there. But I didn't know at the time, like I was teaching myself, sacrifice.
Interesting.
And again, I don't want to say everybody went through that there because I don't want to, I lived like this. Right. But I knew from my eyes and where I was at, I knew it wasn't, it wasn't much there. And like I said, it was 7 people there.
Yeah.
So imagine 7 people there, one small refrigerator. Like when it's time to get something to eat, you gotta. And I didn't have to be there, but it was like, I guess I was just training myself to, learn sacrifice and, that.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Cause I'm from the hood myself, but I'm gonna tell you, man, cause I have peoples in the projects, friends, and I would visit them down from Grand Street projects, CCP projects, the Pound, which is Alabama projects, which is where you would be. And the project living is different.
It's different, yeah.
Than I'm from a block.
Yeah.
And I have friends from the projects, and then specifically 10th Ave in Alabama would unite,
right,
so to speak. That project life is different.
Right, but I had to go.
It's dangerous too.
it was. But it was like, I don't know, it was like school for me. Because at home, I would probably just be home reading books and doing whatever, just in my room.
So you were studying life.
Life.
It almost reminds me of Nas, and I know you into hip hop too. Like Nas actually has a song about talking about how he just observing from his window.
Right.
He learned so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you not succumb? And I know you dibble and dabble into the street, you know. How did you not succumb to some of those things that the people who, you know, for lack of a better word, and I don't want to sound insensitive, right? But the people that fell, you know, because there's the drug dealers, which is the side that I was on, but then you also had the addicts, right? And we were both impacted. Right. You know, I grew up in the 90s, so I was a byproduct of the 80s, but we're both impacted in some type of negative way.
By it.
How were you able to duck? And I know you didn't come out completely clean, so to speak, but how were you able to duck so much that you could have gotten into a lot of worse?
Just wanted to be different. Just different. Like, I always want to be different. If I see everybody doing one thing, like, I want to do something different. So during that time, everybody was doing like I never drank or smoke, right? But I probably was around with the exception of maybe Shabazz. That's the only other person I know who never did. You know what I mean? Like, and that's crazy. I just know one other person who never did.
Right. Yeah.
So
when Shabazz met me, I was a drunk.
So it's like I just wanted to be different, and then I always wanted to be focused. Like, I never wanted to be off balance. Like that, I just never understood how people would like to be out in public off balance, not knowing what's what. Like that observation, like being observant. Like, I feel like it's gonna take away from that if I'm off balance. So I just never wanted to be that.
What's the craziest thing you've seen in the projects?
Nothing too at the time. I don't think it was too crazy. Like, I've seen like maybe like the raids and stuff, like them running in the apartments and all of that. But other than that, I didn't really see nothing too crazy, because it wasn't. And up there, it was like everybody was like family. So they fought. It wasn't like nobody trying to kill each other. You know what I mean? It wasn't nothing too crazy, and it was like their own world.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
definitely.
so it was nothing really crazy from what I never observed anything crazy, but I'm pretty sure things happen. But just, probably fights here and there, but that wasn't nothing too crazy. Nothing that I was afraid of. Like, I'm never going back there again. None of that.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Shabazz, who never really drank or smoked either, because he also, ever since I met him, has been a unique individual and prides himself on being different. Yeah. And so do you. Yeah. You've always been unique. How did you not succumb to peer pressure or fall? You know, so many people talk about peer pressure and wanting to fit in.
Yeah.
So how did you balance that during that time?
Well, to fit in, you have to follow. Like, to fit in, you have to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
So, I go back to saying, like, I always wanted to be different. So a person could say, "Come on, do this," and I'm like, the different side of me just don't want to. So it was just, nobody can never make me do something that I don't want to do. Like,
So, what advice would you offer to someone who's struggling with peer pressure? Who's like you, right? They want to be different, but they don't have the strength and the courage to actually like stand on that.
Advice to that is just get away from those people. If your peers are the ones that's trying to make you do those things, and you saying no, and you having doubts about it, get away from them.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't doubt you. Like, I would never doubt me. Like, that don't make sense for me to doubt myself. No. Where
does that confidence come from? Were you taught or raised a certain way, or it's just in you as long as you can remember?
I think it was just in me. Like I have a sister, so my mom and my sister was like, they hung, so I would probably just be home because they out doing whatever. So just being like, I didn't really start like socializing like a lot with other people, like for like a long time, like probably when I got into like my teenage years, like started socializing. Like I don't make new friends to this day. It's like, I just don't make new friends. So I just me, just
Yeah.
me. It's
Yeah.
like a me thing.
I know in your 20s, you mentioned that you were figuring life out,
Oh, for sure.
as a seasoned man now,
Hmm.
right? What would you tell that young 20-year-old
Oh man,
Papes?
what would I tell that
If you can
person?
go back in time and tell the young 20-year-old you something, what would it be?
What would that be? That would probably be start now. At 20, start now. Start figuring it out now. Cause time is going. Like I can remember turning 20, and that was a long time ago now. So I would just say, yo, start right now. Like if I could tell myself back then, like everything I'm doing today, I wish I could tell myself to start then. I would be out of here.
Mm-hmm.
If I was able to tell myself that.
Yeah.
That would be it. Just, do this now.
Yeah. Don't
Do everything.
hesitate.
No, don't hesitate. The fun will come. Because when I was like in my 20s, I was still trying to have a little fun, have children, but still have fun and do this and do that. But those sacrifices, you'll make all of those. Like do that to, become successful.
Yeah.
You have to.
How you were a father at a very young age, and what I commend you about is that your first child technically wasn't yours,
Right.
right? And you knew that, you were conscious of it,
Yeah.
but you just took on that responsibility. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, as someone that believes that one of the things that's really bringing our community down is the lack of masculinity and fathers at home,
Mhm.
and you took that responsibility on. So
Yeah.
salute to you for doing that.
Appreciate it.
Tell us about how that shaped who you are. You're 18 and now you're raising a child that's not even yours.
Yeah.
You know,
I was crazy. I was 18. I bought my children's mom and her son into my mom's house, like to live there at 18. Like it was insane. But
Yeah.
my mom's accepted it. It was just like, all right, cool. So it just taught me responsibility. Like for all of that time, I only had to worry about me. But by then I had to worry about this kid and this other person and myself. So it's like, it teaches you like, all right, you have to work. You have to, now you got to get a job. Now you got to provide. You got to do all of those things. So it taught me those things
got you
right
in
there.
gear.
Yeah. Because I would have probably just been cruising. Like my mom's wasn't asking me to, work. Like my mom's would probably support me
Yeah.
to this day if I wanted her to, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was just, but I wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah. Salute to you for being a man and stepping up.
Yeah, that was tough.
As somebody who's financially in a great space,
Mhm.
we can always improve and do better.
We need more.
What would you say though, right? So you got the comfort, and I know life isn't perfect, right? We don't got to get into that. But what would you say now, on being on this side of the fence, right?
Mhm.
The I'm doing okay side of the fence. What would you say is the most important thing in life?
Time. Time is it for me. Time is like important because that's one of the things that you ask for a lot of it, but if you get a lot of it, that means you're getting closer to the end of it. So we all ask for that. It's important in a sense because you have to spend time with the people you love and care for. You have to use time to make sure you're good. And that's like important. Time.
Yeah. Is that like the driving force to what you do?
Yeah. Because every day is like, time running out.
Yeah.
It's not like the clock goes backwards. It's like, every day you wake up, it's getting closer to, that. So you got to make sure you do something every day.
What would you say is the key to success, and how do you define success?
Success for me is, making sure that the people around me are successful, for one. That's number one. We strive for success every day, like everybody do, and we just don't even know it. Like we plan success every day. Like, for instance, if I could say, yo, True, I'm gonna see you tomorrow, right? For me to see you tomorrow, I have to succeed in life today. I have to have a successful day and not die or anything to see tomorrow. But I'm telling you, I'm going to see you tomorrow. So it's like, I'm just, planning success right there. And we don't look at it like that. Like, that's, you're planning to be, succeed in this day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't live this day success, like if I don't live through this day, you happen to die or whatever, yeah, I won't be able to see you tomorrow.
Right.
So we plan it every day, and we live. Success is something that I strive for every day.
Yeah.
So that's the key to it is more of like I said earlier, just that discipline thing, because that goal that you set, you have to be disciplined in reaching it. Because if you don't, you're just gonna get off track and you're not gonna succeed. Most people, I think they fail at a lot of things because they get sidetracked. And when you get sidetracked, it's over.
The thing about the sidetrack too that I've personally experienced and that people may not see,
Mm-hmm.
that the sidetrack isn't always a bad thing. I think people think that sidetrack is a negative thing.
Right.
Sometimes the sidetrack can be just chasing another thing and not completing the first task or the first goal.
Right.
Like especially in this day and time, I've seen especially young men where they want to do something, but then they'll get on social media, let's say, and they'll see another, let's say they want to go to school to become something, and then they'll find out like, oh, I can invest in stocks, tomorrow and become rich. So now they're doing that. And then they learn about crypto. So now they're doing that. And then they learn about flipping homes. So now they're doing that. So I think that also too, like people get sidetracked because they're not clear on what their path is.
That's true. I mean, but I would always go back to the first thing, because those things that, like those other things, that's not your true passion. Most people go after the thing that they're truly going after. Like those other things are just like things that just come to you. Like, all right, this came. Let me try this. Let me try that. And you can't have your hand in too many things because something's gonna suffer. So for me, I try to stick to that one thing that I started with. At least give it a shot, see if it's gonna work. If it don't work, then try something else. But if you want to have yourself in crypto and this and that, like that's too many things. Something's gonna suffer.
Yeah.
So I would say, stick to that one thing first. Give it a shot at least, because don't get halfway through it and then say, "Oh, it didn't work," because you jumped onto something else. Because now you left it off on it. You was like almost there, but you left it to go into something that didn't work, and now you want to double back and go back to that thing that you was in, but you left it where it was, and time went on.
Yeah.
So
so I think part of discipline is also that
sticking to that,
not
thing.
Constantly chasing the shiny object. And I, just to be totally transparent, I've been a victim of that, where it's like I'm just pursuing the money and I ignore the passion, or I ignore what I really care about or what I really want to do, because I'm thinking like, oh, okay, this may be an easier thing, or somebody else might say, "True, I think you'll be good at that." And I know you're big on listening to your own voice.
Yeah.
So I ignore my voice and just be like, okay, well, let me try that then. So
that's probably good for them and not you.
Right.
And that's what they're like. I can't sit here and tell you like, hey, I'm telling you, do this and it'll work, because I don't know. You may not be into it. Like you may not be into what I'm into. And if you're really not 100% into it, you may not be successful in it. Yeah. Like you might not be willing to stay up all night.
Right.
To do research on something. You might get tired and say, "Oh man, I gotta go to sleep. It's 4 a.m."
That's a great point. People need to know the price of success and what it takes.
Yeah.
And are you willing to pay that price?
Some people not. They want to just get to it fast.
Yeah.
And nothing happens like that.
Right.
That don't happen like that.
Yeah.
If it happened that quick, like everybody would do it. It was like, oh, this is easy. We can all do this.
Yeah.
Nah. It don't happen like that.
Do you have a favorite book? And if so, why?
I don't really have one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been doing a lot. Like since I was younger, I've been writing my own book in my head so long. Like, you know what I mean? Like reading through that, just going through. I don't know. And it may seem like I'm just stuck on me, but sometimes you have to be, because at the end, who else you have? Just you, right?
Right.
I just have me. So, you know, his story is his story. You know, your story is your story. Like I'm creating my own. I'll read it later.
I love that. I love that. I wish you many years, right? 100 years from now, somebody's reading your eulogy. What would you like for them to say about you and your legacy?
That I helped. Definitely say that. Please say I helped. And I cared. I cared about, you know, everybody making it. Like I give this information. Like if somebody come to me for information, I give it. I give it 100%. I sit down with you and I go to the house with you. Like a young person I'm working with now. Like I just went with him on Wednesday to his home inspection. He's 25, buying his first home. You know, I was there for every step of the way. It took him about a year to find his house, but I was there. Every call I answered, yo, do this, do that, do that. You know what I mean? Like I help.
I have to ask, are you not thinking about, man, I could keep this property for me, or thinking if I help people, then I'm going to have more competition?
No, I look at it like this. If you got something, I got something, we all have something. You know, we all could work together, because now if you buy a house, I buy a house, and 3 other people buy a house, that's 5 people. And something come up where we need 500,000. I said, yo, Truth, you know, pull 100 out your house. I'll pull 100 out. They pull 100 out. We got that 500. Now, if it's just me and I'm like, nah, forget them, I may not be able to pull 500 out of my house. Like I have help, you know what I mean? So I do that, you know, to help. You know, like let's all get something together.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, it's going to be rough.
Yeah. I commend your thinking, my brother, because I feel like that's something people say our community also lacks. You know, a term that's said a lot is this whole crabs in a bucket type of mentality.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's really peace to know that you don't think like that and you are willing to help others succeed. You know, because I wish when I first got into real estate, I wish I had somebody like you in my life that I could refer to or to assist me.
Yeah. Is but everybody's not like that, because you still have people that's not willing to give the information, or they want to charge you for the information.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't dare. When somebody say to me, yo, what do I owe you for this? I just say, yo, teach somebody else.
Wow.
That's I tell everybody that. What I want you to do is pass that on to somebody else. That's it. It is nothing. That's my fee right there. You to pass it on to somebody else.
Wow.
Because now you're just creating a whole line of people with the same thing.
Yeah, I think that if the whole world had your mentality, this world would be a better place.
I don't know.
Yeah. Total sidebar question. Has you becoming an entrepreneur and a businessman, has that shaped or influenced your view on politics? And you don't got to tell us which one you're affiliated with, but has it?
No, not really, because it's like if you're doing something, there's always going to be like something that stands in front of, like, so if you get into the politic thing, like people say, oh well, this guy got in office and you know this is going to happen, and you have other people that say, hey, it's great for the people that's making money, you know, like, so it doesn't bother me at all, because I'm gonna just keep going and figure out another way. If I do run into a roadblock, just, you know, figure out there's always another way to do something.
Yeah.
So it don't bother me.
You coming from the community, you know, spending time in the projects, growing up in Paterson, what do you think cities like that need to elevate themselves?
Ooh.
What's the community missing?
First, there's really no community. That's number one. A community takes, you know, black owned this or black owned that. If it's a black community, like we don't have that. Like there's no black banks, there's no black this or that. So there's really no community there because there's a diverse group of people that owns so many different things. So it's mixed. But so for where we come from, honestly, and this is probably get killed for saying it, I think it's too late. I think it's too late to bring it back because it's too far gone. Like there's no anybody that was there, like they're getting pushed out. We all were fools. I'm pretty sure growing up, we walked past all those abandoned houses, right? It was giving them away for like $1 at one point. Or you get these dudes like, yo, this is my block. You don't own nothing on it. You sound crazy by saying, yo, I lived here for 30 years and paying rent. You could have bought that house. And you probably had the money at one point to buy it. So we missed the shot to turn it around. So now when somebody else come in and they're turning it around and making it, lucrative for them and, putting buildings up in that, you can't really be mad because you had a chance to do it, but you chose to do something else. And we all guilty of it. So, but you can't be upset about what's going on. But I don't think it can be a change. Those buildings are going to keep going up. And those houses, like once people lease and all of that stuff is up, they're going to push them out. Those blocks that people used to hang on, those are gone. Like you can't really hang no more because there's a building there now. You don't know Teresa who lived on the first floor because you can't just run and sit in front of her house. Now you got somebody else that's there and they're like, you can't stand here. Gotta get out of here. Mm-hmm. And they're calling the cops on you, whereas your aunt may have lived, 2 doors down or whatever. She don't live there no more. She got pushed out.
It's interesting you say that about calling the cops. Literally yesterday I was on a block and the same family that owned the bodega on the corner, Lily's, still owns it, Dominican family. And I told them yesterday, because, I've known them since I was 14 years old, right? And I told them yesterday, me being a man that has transformed his life, mm-hmm. I thanked them for being compassionate towards me and not calling the cops on us. We were out there drinking and doing whatever in front of their store.
Right.
And they never called the cops on us, right? And so I just thanked them. And that may sound weird to people that's not from where we're from. Like they're maybe promoting crime or supporting crime or whatnot. But I was just coming from a perspective where they just were patient with me. That's how I see it, which is why I personally thank them, right? For having that patience and compassion. However, now, right? Because if Lily's Lily's, they know the people there, right? They saw us grow up, right? If somebody else was to purchase that store, they're calling the cops on everybody.
Exactly.
There's no connection. There's no, I don't care. You're not hanging in front of my store.
Everybody that used to hang in front of that store now can't hang there no more.
Well, Lily's is actually still there.
No, I'm saying if they were to sell it, like that changes. But that's happening to all of the houses that they used to hang in front of. Like they're no longer there, or the owners are no longer the owners. So if you go up and down those blocks now, you don't really see as much as you used to see. And that all of that stuff is like happening on purpose. Like those rents are like that because they don't want you to afford it. They want you to be out and, get somebody in that's going to pay it so we can build more buildings and turn this around.
Right.
But everybody just was blind all of this time. When I first bought my first property, I was, a group of people. I was like, hey, buy this property. I'm going to get this much rent. And they laughed at me. No way. Like, yo, I'm going to get a 2-bedroom. It's going to be like $1,500 a month. They're like, no way. Now, it's like a 2-bedroom for that is like super cheap. But they all laughed at me when I said that. But it was, again, that foresight of saying like, yo, this house is going to go. And now it's like, it's there.
Wow.
And that's everywhere. Like they're making it so you can afford it. They don't want you to afford it. They want to get the people in from elsewhere that can afford it. But it's funny, like it happened in New York, gentrification. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. But it's like people didn't really know what that meant until, they start hearing it. Like, yo, pay attention. Look what's going on. And it was like, all right. Now for that, I say, you know what, let me get involved in this versus, being on the other side where I'm going to have to rent. And
being affected by it.
Yeah. It was just jumping down there earlier.
But what about just, I can't help but think to myself, yo, that's messed up. They're pushing people out. And like what about the people who just can't afford it?
It goes back to what I said before. It's like your 6-year-old shouldn't have an iPhone. You shouldn't have a brand new Chrysler outside. You shouldn't, you know what I mean? You shouldn't have all of these things. Or if you know your son or whoever was hustling all of this time and, y'all just wearing a whole bunch of designer clothes, I can't really feel bad for that. There might be people that's, truly, truly affected by it. But at the end of it all, it's like, we all have to survive. So if you owned the property there, would you, in your mind, would you say, all right, Miss Gloria been living here forever. She's paying $1,000 for this big 3-bedroom apartment, but my taxes just went up. My mortgage is $4,000. What you doing? You gonna let her stay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know her forever,
right?
What you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, I can't destroy myself, So if I'm hearing you correctly, people need to pay attention. They need to be evolving and growing, paying attention to what's going to the trends, and do something about it.
If all the houses around you, if you see everybody rent going up around you, right? That's not gonna make you say, I wonder if my next. Or you're just gonna say, I'm gonna keep paying this money. I'm gonna pay this forever.
Yeah.
These 3 bedrooms, they never let me leave.
Yeah.
But it's gonna change. Or those places that, like I said, we walked past forever, like, oh, that abandoned house. You go urinate in the alleyway of it. People buying those houses now and they're getting money for them, good
Absolutely.
money when they fix them. So you can't really, and I'm pretty sure back maybe 90s, people was probably walking around with that in their pocket to buy that house. So it's just, you can't really, like, whose fault is that? Like, it's sad to say that your grandmother lived there for 30 years. I'm sorry. It's just sad to say that.
Right.
She paid somebody rent for 30 years here.
Yeah.
Like, she bought his house.
And I'm thinking too, so there should be like almost a formula, for lack of a better word, where we should like, okay, we were here. How are we going to grow and be continuously looking into growth? So if we were renting, all right, the next natural step is we need to become owners.
Right.
And so we need to be on that trajectory.
So, but you have people that say, I don't want to be a landlord. So you want to be a renter all your time? Like, gotta make a better choice there.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a renter.
And if that's what you choose, then don't complain when the rent goes up and then you have to do something about it, make more money or get pushed out.
Rent is more than mortgage. Like for all the people that bought their homes, 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure that one floor is paying their mortgage. Just that one floor. So the rest of is profit.
Wow.
Because the mortgage is more.
Yeah.
So, but that's not their fault because they were, they made a decision to buy and you didn't. I say, like, if you take 3 females, right? Let's say you got 3 females who's at each other's house all the time. Like, oh, we're sisters. And they all get like a text in January, February, whatever, right? She get 9, she get 9, she get 9. That's a down payment for a house for y'all to live in. Y'all be at each other's house every day anyway. Then next year, do the same thing. The year after that, do the same thing. That's 3 houses.
Yeah.
And that just takes you up. But instead, you'll probably say, hey, I'm going to go buy this Altima.
With you saying that, it seems like other ethnicities or communities are willing to make that sacrifice with
Absolutely.
Like
all in one.
I remember on my second floor, a Nigerian family rented it. And one day I went to fix something. I saw, like, I'm exaggerating, 10 Nigerian families living on that floor. I wasn't even tripping about it because I'm like, I'm getting my rent as long as they take care of it, right? So there's a sacrifice in comfort, right? And so people, this is the type of sacrifice that one thing that's consistent in this interview is you've mentioned sacrifice, discipline, right? And the willingness to be uncomfortable. You know, you didn't say those words, but basically said that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that some people are not willing?
Well, I think it's...
And other people are.
I think it's the environment we were brought up in. Like, we couldn't walk around with dirty sneakers, but they will. We would be like, oh, you sleep on a couch. Like, you know, we get kind of like picked on for stuff like that. Like, why you're this, why you're that? They don't care. You would see like dudes coming to school with like, you know, off-brand shoes and stuff, but not knowing like, yo, that's the sacrifice. But we got under everything, head to toe, designer. They don't even know what that is, but they don't care to know because they looking at something different.
20 years from now, that person, you working for them.
Yeah. So they don't care. We care about the wrong stuff at times.
One thing that I've observed, right, just living in the hood and even, you know, you being in and out of the projects and whatnot, I've observed this. It seems like people just don't have their priorities. And you've alluded to that.
Right.
You know, you mentioned people with children with iPhones or driving new cars, but you're renting and all of this, right? And I've seen Benzes in the projects and all types of things.
I was crazy. I had a Porsche on East 18th at one point.
Right. So there's obvious, like, the lack of priorities is something that's prevalent as well. So how can someone develop, you know, the ability to get their priorities together? What's missing?
I don't think it has to be something that you truly want. Like, a priority is something that, you know, that you really, really want, like is important to you. A lot of the times people don't prioritize, you know, like owning something. Like, some people are just happy with renting a place. Like, I'm renting this, I'm good. So that's not everybody's priority to do. Like, ownership. And then they may come from a family who never owned anything, so they don't even know what it is. So it's not a priority to them. Like, my grandmother in it, my mother in it, now I'm renting.
Right.
You know, like, I see people pass down Section 8 from grandmother to mother to daughter. And it's just like, you know, it's not going to work for you like that because you're not even trying to break that whole little curse of that. So it's not a priority for everybody. Those things.
So it's not a priority for everybody to get certain priorities.
Yeah.
Would you say is a lack of exposure and desire, or either or?
It could be. I would say both, because, you know, you're probably not exposed to it, and if you're really not exposed to it, you really don't have a desire for it because you don't even know what it's about anyway. And if you're just stuck in that, if you're just stuck in the circle of your community and you don't go out, you don't see certain things. Like, it's like, okay, you may see a house that's 900 square feet. You never seen a house that was 5,000 square feet. So to you, that small house is like amazing. It's like, oh, this is nice. And, you know, you're good with, you're content with staying there. So it's just a lack of being exposed to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I can't cite my source, but I remember reading that most children that are raised in homes eventually end up buying a home.
Right. I could believe that.
Yeah, it seems like that exposure factor is really a piece. And then we also know, right, obviously people who come from good homes and then they do the opposite. Yeah. So there's all types of variables, but I think
it's like that.
Yeah, I think too, man, that the desire has to, whatever you desire, your present circumstance has to hurt so bad that you're just willing to do whatever it takes. And I think the truth is that most people just are lazy and want to be in their comfort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even me, I find myself sometimes complaining about a certain situation. And so I ask myself, because I really strive to be a person that's solution oriented, right? Even now, I tell my friends all the time, don't come to me with a complaint unless you're ready and willing to talk about a solution at the same time. Because I'm gonna ask you, so what you're doing about it, right? But a lot of times it just doesn't hurt as bad,
Right.
you know. So
That's true.
yeah. So I think it's a little bit of all those things.
Yeah, people.
But exposure is a big factor.
Yeah, you have to see things.
Yeah.
You don't see them, it's like you don't even know they exist.
Indeed. So you have a construction company that offers services to other real estate investors?
Yeah.
How can people find your services? How can they contact you?
You can go online. You can go to the Bellinger Group LLC. That's the Bellinger BELLINGER Group LLC, and everything's there.
Okay.
Number, all of that.
Indeed. So family, my man was dropping heavy gems about what it takes to be successful, not only in real estate, but in life. If you know anyone that could benefit from this conversation, share this podcast with them. Make sure you subscribe, press that like button. Let's get it. Thank you for coming, brother.
Yes.
Peace.